Hello, my name is Shaina. My group members are Melissa, Heather, and Sean, and our presentation is an in-depth look at nursing theorist Callista Roy. A little bit about her family background. Callista Roy was born October 14th in 1939. She is still alive today and is 79 years old. She comes from a big family and was actually the second child born of 7 boys and 7 girls. Her father was a truck driver and her mother was a licensed vocational nurse, which actually had a big impact on Callista's career choice. She was also born into a family with strong religious ties, and she was raised Catholic. After graduating high school, she joined the Roman Catholic organization Sisters of St. Joseph's Carondelet, and it was during this time that she became known as Sister Callista Roy. She is an American nun and is currently a professor and nursing theorist at Boston College Calinao School of Nursing. Another interesting fact about Callista Roy was that she was actually suffering from encephalomyelitis, which is a neurological disorder. So now to get into some of the education of Callista Roy, she received a baccalaureate degree in nursing from Mount St. Mary's College in 1963. Shortly after this, she began to develop her adaptation model of nursing, which was first published in 1970. She also received a master's degree in pediatric nursing from the University of California, Los Angeles in 1966. She then went on to receive her master's, followed by her doctorate in sociology, also from University of California, Los Angeles. She then served as a postdoctoral fellow in neuroscience at the University of California, San Francisco. Roy's personal and professional influences. Her mother was a huge personal influence in her life and also in her career choices. Because her mom was a licensed vocational nurse, it really had a huge impact on Callista Roy, and it taught her the importance of caring for people. Another influence, Dorothy Johnson, who was her professor during nursing school. And Johnson was the one who really challenged Callista to develop her own conceptual model of nursing. Another personal influence was actually Roy's personal experience and battle with her neurological disorder. She wanted to expand her knowledge of a holistic person as an adaptive system, and was also doing this through her own personal health experiences. So a professional influence was basically through pure observation of clinical situations. This was probably the most important, and it was when she was working as a pediatric nurse. It was during this time that she was able to observe the resilience of children and the ability that they had to adapt to their psychological and physical stressors and their lives and situations. And finally, Callista also acknowledges Harryhausen's research in psychophysics and credits him with helping her to build her definition of what a stimuli is.
What kind of theory is Roy's adaptation model? Is it considered a middle range, a grand nursing theory, a practice-based? Callista Roy's adaptation model is considered a grand nursing theory. A grand nursing theory's main purpose is to organize different pieces around a main concept that relates to nursing practices. It's the broadest scope and presents general concepts and propositions. It may reflect and provide insights useful for practice, but not designed for empirical testing. And it consists of conceptual frameworks defining broad perspectives for practice and ways of looking at nursing phenomena based on the perspectives. How general is this theory? It's relatively broad and general. The theory interrelates the individual and the physical environment. The purpose of the theory is to use a 6-step nursing process to assess the patients and come up with interventions that will help the patients achieve their goals by minimizing their stressors. This concept can be applied to all individuals, families, and communities. The concepts are broad, so they can be applied to any health behaviors, instead of being limited to a specific human experience such as pain. This theory is best applied to the present and future because it focuses on the adaptive responses that occur in an individual's daily life. Some evidence or conclusion supporting that Roy's adaptation model, also known as RAM, is a grand nursing theory, is that it revolves around the idea that health is a continuum of degrees from wellness to sickness. Roy's theories are useful in developing nursing care plans that promote patient health. Patient care requires one to understand the person's life process to the environment changes, which requires you to use the grand theory through the Roy's environment and health concept of nursing. It's a conceptual framework which focuses on the interconnected, holistic individual and his or her interaction with the environment. The model has been used by many scholars as a framework for research and demonstrated an efficiency in education. Adaptation is the outcome observed when responses to environmental changes are positively experienced. Clinical application of the model enhances nursing practice by integrating theory to the process of care and nursing roles in patient care. It combines spirituality within her model to illustrate how adaptation is integrated with health through the 4 modes of functioning. Some strengths of RAM is it analyzes the individual in a broad perspective. It provides opportunity to understand the whole human being. Includes spiritual aspect of nursing. It's used to analyze diverse healthcare-related issues, and it identifies factors affecting the individual and his community.
The major dimensions for Roy's adoption model are 2 major processing systems, the regulator and the cognator subsystems. These systems determine how the individual adapts to or copes with the internal and external environmental stimuli. The regulator subsystem responds through neural, chemical, and endocrine coping channels. The cognator subsystem responds through 4 cognitive, emotional channels: perceptual and information, processing, learning, judgment, and emotion. The sub-theoretical dimensions. Roy defines these as 3 levels of adaptation: integrated, compensatory, and compromised life process. An integrated life process can change to a compensatory process, which attempts to reestablish adaptation. If the compensatory processes are not adequate, then it becomes a compromised process result. Adaptation uses conscious awareness and the choice to create human and environmental integration. The concepts of Roy's model. In order to use this in practice, you would need to use these 4 adaptive modes in order to evaluate the individual and the group. Shown in this table is Level 1 assessment of the individual's behavior. Level 2 would be the assessment of the stimuli. Once this is established, then we as nurses can determine the type of intervention or treatment needed. Roy's nursing meta-paradigm. The person is an adaptive system with cognator and regulator subsystems acting to maintain adaptation in the 4 adaptive modes. The environment is all conditions, all circumstances, and influences surrounding and affecting the development and the behavior of the persons and groups. Particular consideration of the mutuality of the person and the earth's resources. Health, a state and process of being and becoming integrated and whole that reflects the person and environment's mutuality. Nursing. The goal of nursing is to promote adaptation for individuals and groups in the 4 adaptive modes, thus contributing to health, quality of life, and dying with dignity by assessing behavior and factors that influence adaptive abilities and to enhance environmental factors.
Alright, so how can we apply Callista Roy's adaptation model into nursing practice? Well, it's important to remember that the individual is striving to respond to a constantly internal and external environment through adaptation. The nurse's job is to manipulate the stimuli instead of the patient by enhancing the interaction of the person with their environment, thereby promoting health. This might sound a bit confusing for now, but we'll have an example for it in just a second with this case study. But first, let's go over Callista Roy's 6-step process that can be applied to nursing practice, which was gone over in the textbook. First, we need to assess patient behaviors from the 4 adaptive nodes explained earlier in the presentation, which, if you forgot, were physiologic modes, self-concept modes, role-function modes, and interdependence modes. Second, it is important to assess and categorize the 3 stimuli for these behaviors, which are as follows: the focal stimuli, which immediately influences a behavior, the contextual stimuli, which includes all the other stimuli present that contribute to the effects of the focal stimuli, residual stimuli, which are other stimuli present in the environment which cannot be validated. Third, we now move on to make a nursing diagnosis based on the person's adaptive state. Fourth is to set goals to promote adaptation. Fifth is to use interventions in order to manage stimuli to promote adaptation. And finally, sixth, evaluate the achievement of adaptive goals. So here, I brought up a case study that uses Roy's adaptation model to guide nursing practice involving a group of young women contemplating to quit smoking. At the beginning of this study, the women are only in the pre-contemplation stage, and underneath this point you can see that they are not seriously thinking about quitting smoking and that they generally do not seek interventions. The nurse's job in this situation is to help them through this stage of pre-contemplation in order to begin considering to quit smoking. The young women are in their mid-20s living in southeastern Canada, and the case study group is closed and supportive, which means that closed meaning that new members are not added when others leave, and supportive meaning that the group has a primary purpose of helping members who share similar emotional stresses. To start it off, the researchers did their behavior assessment and found that these women smoked an average of half a pack of cigarettes a day. They lacked regular exercise, stating that they only pursued physical activity for between 2 and 4 hours a week. The members also experienced stress due to work and/or body image. For the stimuli assessment, the researchers state that the focal stimuli is their addiction to nicotine, and the contextual stimuli is their belief that smoking is enjoyable, relaxing, and a part of their daily routine already. The residual stimuli is their beliefs and attitudes concerning their body image. Here, we see that the diagnosis is that their lack of motivation to quit smoking is related to their nicotine dependency. So in order for these women to get on the right track, the nurse must set some goals, of course. We have a few of them listed here, but they mainly focus on education, stress management, the benefits of having a good diet, and the integration of physical activity into their daily lives. For their interventions, they had sessions where they would meet in a group and learn about smoking addiction, withdrawal symptoms, and the health benefits after quitting. In these sessions, they also focused on stress management and learned some techniques regarding how to deal with it. The young women also learned about the benefits of healthy eating as well as regular exercise. And during their evaluation, the women were able to show a more accurate understanding of smoking addiction, which helps promote adaptive responses in the long run. They were able to state 3 reasons and beliefs about smoking, 3 types of addiction, 5 benefits to quitting, and 5 withdrawal symptoms. The members were also able to describe the stress response and also demonstrate a few techniques and strategies that they can use to cope with stress. And finally, they learned why it is important to consume a healthy diet and incorporate exercise into their daily regimen. So, to wrap it all up, researchers were able to make great use of Callista Roy's adaptation model in this case study, utilizing the 6-step nursing process that we learned in the text. Through education and intervention, the young women became more aware and knowledgeable about the effects of smoking, and the nurses and researchers helped move them from the pre-contemplation stage into the contemplation stage where they begin to think about smoking cessation. Though not every nursing model is applicable in every situation, Roy's adaptation model surely works in this scenario, and it can be used in many other ways as well. Thanks for watching.